Hello there guys, and welcome back to the channel. So about a week ago from now already, I released a three video series where I basically explained the victory track meta and went over possible best attackers, possible best defenders, and I see that a lot of people could probably benefit from a bit of a rehash on it. So if you do want to watch the full versions of those videos, then definitely check them out on my channel. They are not all that long ago uploaded. It was only about a week ago. It's 3 videos, basically the best attackers, best defenders, and general strategy video. In this video, I'm going to do a bit of condensed version for those of you who are a bit more pressed for time, and explain to you why you are dying or basically, struggling in the victory track meta, and what to focus on in order to bypass the nodes. So on victory track, we do have 2 nodes. Number 1, every time you hit opponent with an armor up buff, you will get power burned, which means you will lose power and take direct damage to your health. And this power burn damage scales with each armor up buff as well as defender's base attack. Then the second node is when strike, the defender gains a charge. At 10 charges, they gain an armor up buff lasting for 30 seconds. So virtually every defender will be gaining these armor up buffs. So that means this is not a super skill-based meta, because here you can't play it out. It's not Mixmaster or something like that, where if you play really well, you can use virtually any champion or something. You need to use specific champions, and in this case, all of those abilities will be connected effectively with power burn and armor ups. And for that, I presented this sheet, which you can kind of copy, paste, or take a screenshot as a little cheat sheet. The power burn immune champions in the game are Hulkling, Venom, Venompool, Galen, King Groot, Red Goblin, Annihilus, and Terax. These champions do not care about the nodes at all, or let's say against tech champions in case of Venom, Venompool, and Terax, or metal champions against Terax. So these are the champions that can completely ignore both of the nodes, and you do not have to worry about anything else aside from countering the defender's abilities. There are 4 additional ways how you can use champions offensively. Number 1, and that is the most simplest, which is armor break characters. Corvus, Medusa, Visionarchus, Silver Surfer, Captain Malmovie, OG Thor, Howard the Duck, Sentinel, Yondu, CGR, Hyperion, Rocket, Null. All of those champions will work to varying levels of degree with altered rotations in case of CGR, for instance, and against majority of the defenders, except obviously if your opponent is armor break immune. Because that is where this meta gets extremely difficult, because it is going to be kind of like a rock, paper, scissors situation where if you do not have an appropriate counter to opponent's champions, then you will just die. That's about as simple as that. That's how this meta is going to work, because, if you draft 2 or 3 armor break attackers, an opponent drafts in champions that are armor break immune, you're going to be screwed. Therefore, it is important to supplement on top of power burn immunity, on top of armor break immunity. It's important to look at your nullify and neutralize attackers. At the moment, neutralize is bugged, and it's not as effective as it should be because it doesn't reset the charge count, which makes it kind of weak and busted, but it makes Tiger and Rintra quite hard to use. However, that should be fixed with the January update coming early next week. Then on top of that, you do have your standard Mystic champions, like Diablos, Juggernauts, Symbiote Supremes, Scarlet Witches, Hoods. Longshot is very good. I definitely need to mention that. Longshot is a very, very solid champion to add, and obviously more. These are not all the champions that people use, but the base point is you can nullify it, because that is an actual buff. It will fill your Mystic Dispersion. You can get rid of those armor ups, and you will not be taking damage. Then there are 2 more options. How to deal with the damage or the nodes. Number 1 would be using ability accuracy reduction, like Magneto, like Falcon, like Crossbones, like Archangel, for instance. They will work if opponents do not start with armor buffs, especially then. And then there are what I would describe miscellaneous solutions. For instance, Valkyrie can be used because you only hit opponent's block. No power burn then. Kitty Pride can be used, not super effectively, but can, because you will lose your power, but as long as you hit opponents only whilst you're phasing, you will take no power burn damage. Namor can be used, and Namor can be really, really good in this meta against champions who get a bunch of armor ups, because then you will have a ton of damage to throw back at them. I think I did like Colossus in 25 seconds with Namor. Another interesting option is Gore, because every time Gore gets power burned, he triggers his regen buff and they stack and you regen a ton. You'll still lose the power, but Gore is kind of like an interesting out-of-the-box option. And then on top of that, as I accented, one big problem is Mystic Defenders in this meta, because you can throw down a Sasquatch and there just aren't many great options for it, because most of the champions that inflict armor break are Cosmic or Tech. Most Mystics don't really deal with Sasquatch all that well. And he's super tanky, so there are very few options, for instance. And the same thing goes for Man-Thing and Man-Gog and a bunch of other champions. And that's why it's important to note that Mr. Fantastic, Anti-Venom, and Titania all have Stagger in their base kits, which does mean that they will be able to bypass that armor up that opponents are getting if you time it well. The problem is, if you let an armor up slip, then you're kind of stuck. But they are options that can be used. And then defensively, obviously, I don't think too many people need help here, but basically, champions that start up with armor up buffs are extremely dangerous, like Hulkbuster, Captain America, Sam Wilson, Nimrods. Howard the Duck is very good offensively and defensively this meta. Silver Warrior is a very tough defender. Colossus has been putting in work on defense, and obviously other champions that have extra access to armor ups or start the fight with armor ups especially. And then we have champions that are armor break immune that function very, very well. Sasquatch, Man-Thing, Dr. Doom, Man-Gog, very tough to deal defenders here. Then we have champions like Dragonman and Rintra and Ibam and Mephisto. Domino is exceptionally hard champion to deal with in this meta. And then obviously we have also the Nullify immunities in Thing, also armor break immunity. Gallon, which is basically a permaban champion this meta. Meg Sentinel and Silver Warrior. So these are kind of like the most notable defenders, I'd say. Korg is also quite tricky in this meta, as he always is. But the main thing is to figure out your offensive options. And again, figure out how to get rid of that armor up buff or ignore or bypass the damage. So again, as a quick recap, you have 5 different options to basically deal with armor up or power burn, which is full-on power burn immunity, which is armor breaking the opponents, which is nullifying and neutralizing them and staggering and fate sealing them. And then you have ability accuracy reduction, and then there are some more creative options of ignoring the damage, throwing the damage back, out-regioning the damage in case of Gore, hitting opponent's block with Valkyrie, so on and so forth. So that is how this meta works. Now, the good thing is that there are quite a lot of champions that do work. The bad thing is many of them are fairly specific, and a lot of people will have to downgrade their rosters. And nobody's really immune to it. I understand that, you know, me complaining about that is kind of silly, but I'm just pointing it out as an example where if I have 30 plus rank 4 champions, in theory, I could quite easily compromise my deck of pretty much rank 4s only. Then in this meta, let's say I'm going to only get to use 18 or 20 of them or 15 or something like that, and then I'm going to have to go to rank 3s typically. Now, that is still a very solid position, and I'm not complaining about that. I want to make sure. I'm just explaining that everybody will have to basically rely on champions that you do not necessarily always use or have ranked up to highest ranks. It is much easier pill to swallow, obviously, for me and anybody with larger accounts. But for people with smaller accounts, the important thing here is you are 1,000 times better off with a good 5-star in this meta than a subpar 6-star rank 3 or rank 4. That's just a fact. And other than that, it will come to drafting and deck building because, again, there is obviously quite a bit of skill involved still in that, but if you are stuck in this meta, you are dead. If opponent outdrafts you, you'll lose. So it is more draft dependent, and that also means it's more roster dependent and deck building dependent. I do hope this video is helpful rehash to you guys. Again, this video isn't meant to say whether I like or dislike this meta and stuff like that. Fact of the matter is, these are the nodes that we have to play with at the moment anyways. And this is how you go about it. These are the champions that I use personally. If you want to quickly check out my deck, then I'll probably make that into a separate video with my personal MVPs and stuff like that. But yeah, that is it for now. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I will see you guys soon. Hello there guys, and welcome back to the channel. So we have all the information about the next